Less stress, more time, more money. Welcome to the Cash Flow Contractor. Short.
What's up, cash flow contractors? Khalil here. We've got another episode to help you find less stress, more time, and more money. This one's about the contractor death spiral. And if you don't know what the death spiral is, you'll probably be familiar with it soon into listening, but it's full of stress, and it means that you're going from job to job, trying to recover from your mistakes, that you've been living in a lie as a business owner, but not because of bad intentions, all for good intentions, and it's just gone south. So you probably either have been in this position yourself, you know somebody in it, or you've been near it. And we're going to talk about what it is and all the ways that it starts, as well as what you can do to fix it. And although it's a challenge to get out of it, it is possible. And we're excited for you to listen to this episode. So thanks for checking it out and enjoy. Martin, you started a blog in 2017?
Don't know.
It's been a while, though.
It's been a while.
It's been
Yeah.
over 5 years,
Has it really?
or about 5 years. I think it was the fall of
Sure
2017,
could be. Yeah, I don't remember. I'll have to
or
go
maybe
look.
even the spring of 2017. So, yeah, you've got how many articles do you think?
100 or so.
A little over 100.
A few over 100. Yeah.
It's great.
And I've got tens of readers.
Tens.
Tens and tens of readers.
That's not true.
You're right. It's fives.
No, you've got decent traction.
Yeah. Yeah. The real, one of the main benefits of having a blog is they're on subjects that come up all the time. And so when I'm dealing with clients, I just send them a link.
Yep.
Because it recaps what we talked about. And because when I write, I take a little more time than when I speak. As you can tell, when I go on here, my brain's working. So a lot of times it's more succinct and
Really clear.
yeah, it's on everything. Yes, every kind of thing.
How long does it take you to write a blog?
Too long.
Too long.
About a fourth the time of what it used to. But and seriously, that's something we're going to talk about today. It's good. Used to get an idea and have it all fleshed out in my head, and then you go sit down and looking at a white piece of paper, metaphorically speaking, and then the THE, and to actually get it on paper and make it flow. Used to, I'd write it in a day, and then I'd go over it the next day, and it might be 4 or 5 days before I was ready. I can write it now in an hour or so, and then I leave it open on my computer, and the next day look at it and rephrase things. But
Yeah.
it takes a long time.
Yep.
That's why they don't show up every week. That's one of the reasons.
Well, it's been a while since you wrote one recently, but when's the one last time you wrote one from?
I mean, a month or
Oh, okay.
so.
I thought
yeah.
it was further back than that. Well, we're going to be covering that article today, and we'll link to it in the show notes. But the death spiral.
The Contractor Death Spiral. That's the most recent article I'm putting in.
Now, we talked about this on one of our recent episodes, and the reality is it absolutely applies to contractors, but it can apply to almost
Right.
anything. And honestly, it can happen in just personal life too, where, you start living outside your means, spending outside your means, that
You
kind
get
of
behind the
stuff.
curve.
But let's go ahead and define what the contractor death spiral is.
Well, I define the Contractor Death Spiral as being in the position where you have to collect a cash deposit from the next job in order to finish the last job.
In order to finish, or to, like, what if you finish the job, but all the money's on your credit card and
Then, no, I'm talking about you
you
can't
literally
get done
can't
in
finish?
it.
Gotcha.
We'll talk about it, but the issue there is the people on the last job, the unfinished job, are getting increasingly mad, and you're laying off excuses about rain, but they know how much it rains, and maybe you're on contractor hold. Yeah, I mean, you're a vendor hold. They won't say the materials. And anyway, you're making excuses, and you get desperate to sell the next job so you can get that cash. So, well, we'll talk about it kind of in order, but what happens is the pressure builds up, you get brain static, you make mistakes, you have bad judgment, you
Yeah.
discount your next job in order to get the check so that maybe you would have been profitable on the next job, but you take enough off so that they give you the check today. And so now you've just pushed kicked the problem down the road from
Yep.
the job you're on to the job you're going to next. But you've got irate customers, you got increasing pressure, just that pressure of
Yeah.
what to do and when to do it and how to do it. And everybody wants you, and every call you get's negative, and it just builds up and builds up and builds up. And the point I make is you have to stop it. You have to stop it. The death spiral is a spiral, and you will crash.
And burn.
One say crash and burn, and you might wind up on one of those news in your corner TV shows where they're interviewing the little old lady, and they took my money, and I've never seen him since. Well, some of those guys are crooks, but I also, when you see that, I can pretty well guess what happened. They got caught in the death spiral,
Yeah.
couldn't get out, and finally just bailed. So you wind up in TV, and you wind up in court.
I think what makes that spiral spin is it's the doing of it's your own doing that causes you into that.
Yep.
But what really gains the traction of that is that you are living multiple lives, right? You've got, your employees that think that you're at this level and that you're running the company and you're the big shot and all that stuff. And you're trying to maintain that, macho, whatever perspective with them. Then you've got the client who trusts you and sees you as the expert and that you're going to complete it. And you've given them promises and deadlines and all this stuff. And you've taken their money. Then you've got your suppliers who, want your money and they want to keep giving you materials because they want to keep selling to you. And you've got this rapport with them, like, hey, it's coming, that you've got an excuse every time and you've got to try to make that excuse seem real. And then you're going on to the next, you're with your family and they want to spend time with
I'm
you.
going to say you almost left that one out, or I thought you were going to.
No.
Your family, because they know what's going on.
They know what's going
you're
on.
up at 2 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure your way out. They know that you're not sleeping.
And then your friends want to hang out and go out to dinner and do these activities, and you don't have the money to do it, but you want to be friends with them still. And so you go do it. And all of these identities that you're trying to maintain that are really a fragment of your imagination, or a figment of your imagination.
And a fragment. You have other parts of your imagination as well.
A figment of your imagination that you're trying to maintain, and it causes you to stress because you're having to live a lie. And that's where the spiral, I think, really picks up speed, is the lies and the lies and the lies.
The mechanics of it, you're correct, but the mechanics of it are you have bad judgment, you're negotiating from a position of desperation, whether you're dealing with current customers or new customers. And so you make concessions, you make bad decisions, and it makes it worse because you're not getting your way. You're not working your way out. You're working your way further in.
Where does it, obviously that's where, but where does it really start? Those are all things, but what's a really easy way for it to just start kicking in slowly?
Well, glad you brought that up, because that's really important. First of all, our listeners, many of them are in or have been in the death spiral. I would say all of them know what we're talking about. Okay. There are some out there who would never let it happen to them, and I tip my hat to them and so on. But it's really, it's rampant. I see lots of people who are in it or on the verge of going in and on the verge of making decisions that will take them in.
And this doesn't have to be just the one shop guy, or it can be $100 million companies.
$23 million company is one of my examples that I'm not going to mention. In a local city. They're matter of fact, they're I don't think they're coming out, but where does it start? Well, there are a lot of reasons that could have tripped it off first. Maybe you didn't get paid by a customer or something, or maybe you had an accident or a key person quit. But ultimately, if you're in the spiral, it means you have been losing money. Okay. Just to cover all the bases, maybe you made a lot of money, but you took it and spent it on an RV or something. But basically it means you're losing money. That's how it starts. And that's where it has to fixing it has to start. But what I say is you're in the spiral. There are 4 reasons for it. 1 is you're losing money because you missed bid jobs.
Right.
2, You're losing money because of mistakes, right? You're losing money because you don't manage your payroll. And we'll talk about all these individually.
Yep.
Or you're losing money because of concessions to customers, either current customers or the customers you're trying to sell the next jobs to.
Yep.
Those are the four things. And I go through it with clients who I have two that are in the spiral right now. I think I already said.
Yep.
I think they're going to make their way out, but we have to examine those four areas.
Yeah.
And it starts with bidding properly, right? How many episodes do we have on that? How do you bid properly?
Yeah.
Khalil? I mean, right?
Yeah.
Well, you have to know your costs. You have to know the difference between a margin and a markup. You have to know how much you have to sell every month to pay your overhead and to pay your debt service. You have to know those things, your break even that we talk about all the time. And you have to have good books because at the end of the day, you need to look down there and say, did I make money? Because to get out of the spiral, you have to make money.
You have to make
If you're not making money, well, right. But that's why you're great point.
Yeah.
You need the cash, but even if you don't have the cash yet, because it's tied up in final payments and stuff, you have to be able to look at your accrual-based books and say, oh, I made $20,000 last month.
Right.
Because if accrual-based proper books tell you lost $20,000 last month, no amount of accounts receivable coming in are going to correct for that. So you have to correct your bidding, and we can talk more about that, and we have all the time. But the second thing is mistakes. And the thing about this is mistakes on the job, right? Not necessarily mistakes bidding, but that's a mistake too. But mistakes cost you twice, right?
Yeah.
People understand that, I think, but you have to be really aware of it. They cost you twice. They cost you the cost of redoing the job, but they also cost you what you could have made if you were doing a new job.
If you're using that time to redo it on the actual
You only have so much capacity. And if you're in the spiral, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Right. So you have to minimize mistakes. So Khalil, what causes mistakes?
A lot of different things cause mistakes, but on the job, it's lack of systems, it's lack of direction, it's lack of clarity, it's lack of simplicity. I mean,
I put that in one word. You're exactly right. Focus.
Right. Sure.
You have to focus on the job. Somebody does.
Yep.
Right. And so if you're out chasing the next check or placating a irate customer at another job, and you send the guys over to the job and nobody's watching them, maybe you've got really good guys, but no, I mean, I just see it all the time. We didn't tarp it, and it rained, and you have to redo the whole thing, right? Or the subs came in and nobody was there from your company, or PM wasn't, project manager wasn't there. And this literally happened in the last month. They poured concrete decking over all the conduit and everything without the wires pulled through, right? and in one place, the wires are coming through the concrete, but the conduit that should stick above the concrete decking aren't there. So the wires are concreted in.
Oh,
well,
man.
It's a $12,000 deal, knock all that in. Or you've got leaks beneath the pipe anyway, it just compounds. So instead of getting out of the hole by chasing, you just created another problem that puts you further in the hole. So
that spiral gets tighter.
The spiral gets tighter. And so misbidding, mistakes. And then the third thing
labor costs.
was talking about labor costs. And if you've been in business for any time, you know that labor is an issue. So let's just say that you are a capable bidder and you do know your costs. And we'll talk about courage here a little bit, but you do bid something properly, and you are really good, and you know exactly how many labor hours it's going to take to do that job, and you bid it. But what you don't do is all the unproductive hours. I've got one client right now that I just went Pompeii. He's got one guy who starts the day by driving about 35 miles, it's about 30 miles, one way to pick up another guy who doesn't have a driver's license to bring him back, and then he takes him home. So that's 4 man-hours a day doing nothing because a guy it's really a pet peeve with me. If guys don't have a driver's license, they got to call Uber, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
there's solutions.
Unless they're Albert Einstein or something. But yeah, figure it out. So that's just an example. But going to the parts house, shifting guys, pulling off this job to go finish the last job. There's a transit time. There's the lost wages one. Anyway, there's slippage in labor, and everybody listening knows exactly what I'm talking. So you bid this job with a perfect amount of labor. It's going to take 750 man-hours, and you're right. but it took 750 man hours of labor that wasn't allocated to a job because it was jack and array.
Yeah.
So Mike Andes talks about that in our P for P.
Absolutely.
It's the biggest, most difficult, uncontrollable cost.
Yep.
Right. The things that you buy, kind of, we're in supply chain and all that, but they cost what they cost. And you can understand that in advance, but that labor is a bad one. So we've got missed bids, mistakes, labor costs, and concessions.
Yeah.
And the concessions are the
worst part.
That's where you got to grow a pair.
Yep.
Right.
Well, you have to grow a pair with the labor too. I mean, you got
to grow a pair to do this whole thing.
Sure.
Right. And that's why, well, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but you got to have a reason you want out. And pain and suffering is a good reason, but you have to have a reason want out. And you have to know that it is a dead end. It is a dead end. Not just might be, not just could be. It is a dead end you have to get out. So the concessions come up. I'll give you an example. I have one contractor who digs holes, okay? He charges to dig. He knows who he is, and he listens to this. But he digs holes. That's one of the things he does. So when he started out, and here even pretty recently, he's digging some holes and he encounters some things. Sewer lines, water mains, gas lines.
Sprinklers.
And, sprinklers. Yeah, they hit that in the first 2 inches, 4 inches, because that guy didn't put them in right. Well, anyway, so the customer stand out there and said, you told me this was a turnkey hole.
Yeah.
No, I'm not spending $24,000 relocating the city's utilities and the gas line and everything else. Well, you told me it was turnkey. Well, okay. No, not well, okay. The contract didn't say I wouldn't do it, but the contract didn't say I would. You have to do that. Yeah, and that happens. And the more pressure you're under to get the check or to get the final payment on that last job or the next payment, and the more stress you're under and just chaos going in your mind and people calling you all the time, you are negotiating from a position of desperation, and that compounds itself.
Yeah.
Right. And then there are concessions. So that's concessions on existing work. There are concessions on the new work. You really need that check. It's $25,000 down payment. And they're waffling a little bit. Well, my wife and I got to think about it, or my husband and I got to think about it. I'm pretty sure we'll do it, but look, I'll give you 10% off if you give me a check today.
Yep.
That's you from profitability into a loss, and that's if everything goes well.
Yep.
So you have to correct those things. And it begins in all areas. The concessions can begin this afternoon. You're not going to do it. You're driving to do a bid, and you have to listen to this. You're not doing it.
Don't do it.
You know what you got to have if you've done your bids properly. You know what you have to have in order to make a profit.
Yeah.
You can't give it away.
Yeah, for sure.
The mistakes, you got the mistakes you got. Well, on that subject, what you pointed out was it's a lack of focus that leads to mistakes.
Absolutely.
Right? Lack of your focus on paying attention to that job. The way out of making mistakes is that you focus on a job. And you are there, or your project manager, if you've got one, are there when the subs show up. You tarp it when you leave so it doesn't cave in on you. Do whatever you have to do and get that stinking job done. Because with my clients, I talk about all these haunting jobs from the past that are running on forever. I call them legacy jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And they're wiping you out where you got to get one done. And the other 14 that you have that are calling you all the time because you said, you got to take it. That's where their cojones come in.
Yep.
But you got one done, and then go to the next one and get it done. And in the meantime, you still got to do bids and all that, but that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
Right?
And you've got to put in the extra work. I think the reality is two things. When you have all of this stress from the death spiral, you really want a quick way out. That's what you're thinking in your mind. Like there's an easy fix. And you look for the easy fixes, like, oh, I'm going to do this oddball job to, make extra money, or I'm going to just discount it here. And you look for these easy temporary fixes, but it's not what you got to get into this position in the first place were not easy fixes.
Right.
They were very challenging things that got you here, uncomfortable things that put you in this position, just like with, weight loss. You put on the weight, and it took time
Right.
to put on that weight. It's not like you just had one burger and a milkshake and all of a sudden you gained 50 pounds. It's because you ate that every single day and now you're 50 pounds overweight. You want to get rid of the weight? It's not just going to be a day. You've got to put in the work. And the same thing's happening with the death spiral. If you want to get out of it, you're going to be uncomfortable. You're going to have to go through pain and discomfort and extra hours and courage and saying no to people and losing relationships
It's
and all these
only
things.
what. Okay, I was going to say it's the only way, but I laughingly have to point out
You can go
I
bankrupt.
do have a couple of people who got bailed out by EIDL money,
That's very true.
and it's like, oh my god!
But
But did they learn?
no,
Because if you
they
didn't,
didn't.
well, one guy we're working on it. Okay, I have a guy who got EIDL money and go, praise the Lord, right? And I think he's getting his lesson, but you need to learn. Otherwise, that EIDL money's gone, and now you owe another $500,000 on top of what you owe everybody else. And by the way, the government's probably going to collect. I don't know how.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can discharge that in bankruptcy or not. But anyway, that's a great point.
Yeah.
Do you want a quick way out? And I tell you, I have started companies, and I really haven't been deeply in the death spiral in the past, but kind of headed that way. And my clients and people, maybe just in conversation, well, how did you do it? How'd you do it? And my honest answer is, I don't know. I
It's
don't
not-
know
it's
that. I
because
don't
it's
know
not
the
one thing.
particulars of it. Well, it's these things of
Yeah. But
misbids, mistakes, and labor costs. But the particulars, did I get a check in time to get this one so that guy didn't sue me so I can go to the next one? Those particulars are going to be what they are.
they're
But
fuzzy because there's so much that you have to do.
Right.
And while we've boiled it down to these 4 things, those are huge areas.
Right.
Like that's a lot to deal with. How many different types of concessions can you make on a daily
Right.
basis with your customers? Like dozens, right? And so it's fuzzy and it's hard to know exactly what it is because there's so much that you have to do. And it's more than anything, it's just the mindset
Yeah.
of I'm on this path of getting out of this and I have to say no to this,
Yeah.
this, and this. I think the reason why I would argue that a majority of the death spirals start because there's good intentions of trying to grow, trying to go into a new service area or add another service, tap into a new market, whatever it might be. You have these ambitions of, I'm going to be a good business person or
Right. I'm going to get sales.
yeah,
And we've been all over that.
yeah,
Sales
I'm
is
going
not
to
the
grow.
problem.
You have these ambitions, and that's what starts the death spiral is that you get in over your head. You don't seek proper counsel. You don't have experience in it. You don't, have a coach that's guiding you through it, or you haven't, double checked your numbers and all that kind of stuff. But, for example, it's probably something where you take on that job that, you go and you try to bid it because you're like, I want to try doing this. I think we can do that as a company, as a team. We have the manpower, we've got the brains, we'll figure it out. And your bid is actually misbid. And then it's a new job. So you're making mistakes because you've never done it before and you don't have the crew on there. And then because you're trying to tap into this market and you've never really done it before, you make concessions to try to make the project go well and stay in good rapport with the person you're doing the project for. And so when you make those concessions, you have to overhire to be able to actually provide
Yeah,
on some of those things.
Everything compounds.
It compounds. And so that's usually where it starts. In that one job, it actually, you complete it and you're like, hey, we did it. Now we can go do another one. Or like, I feel so much better about the next one. Let's go do it, Or, hey, we've got to pay this. It just starts from there, essentially. And so I think that's something that you have to realize is that if you can keep it simple, rather than when you're going into these new endeavors, these ambitious efforts to grow, to enter a new market, whatever it is, this more simple you can keep it, the more manageable it will be, the more likely that you'll have success. But always make sure that you're getting another opinion, you're following the guidance of somebody else, and that you're doing your proper due diligence to be able to execute that, because you don't want to end up in that death spiral. And give yourself time to reflect after one of these jobs and ask, hey, what went wrong? Like, don't just say, oh, we did it, we got it done. No, like really ask yourself, was it worth the extra stress? Some people are probably better off not growing than they are growing, right?
Probably most.
Probably most.
Or growing in the proper field.
Yeah.
Not doing everything.
And also check, I saw this, you can tell a lot by a business owner if you ask them about their business, like how big are you? If they answer in terms of team members, revenue, sales, or profit, um, or locations.
Mhm.
And it says a lot about what their drive is, where their goals are, what their ambitions are, and what they're trying to achieve. If they're based off team member, they're trying to grow in size. They're probably spending more on labor than they should be.
That's a really good point.
If it's sales, they're probably not having the
They're
right
chasing sales.
margins.
Yeah.
If it's profit, then they're probably doing something right, but they also could be, cutting corners on things like that.
Well, it could be suffering cash.
Exactly. Exactly. So there's always something, and it tells you what their problems probably are and all that stuff. And so
So
anyways,
we can start on all of these things today. I mean, you've got a job going today. Make sure you don't make another mistake. I mean, I get these calls. We talk about mistakes and we list them and how we're going to get out of them. And literally, I'll get a call again. Well, we had another screw up today. We're just going, oh my God. We're not even knocking one on and replacing it with a new one. A lot of times we're adding a new one before we fix the old one.
yeah.
And it has to stop.
Well, I think sometimes they change that mindset. They realize, oh, wow, I'm in the death spiral. And this might happen to you if you're listening. You're in the death spiral. You're like, man, I'm in this and I need to get out. And you have this mindset shift. And for the whole day, you're like getting focused. You're like, okay, I'm going to stop doing this. I'm going to stop doing this. The problem is you're still in the spiral. You haven't gotten out yet. Even though your mind might be out of it and on the way out of it, you're still in the spiral. Mistakes are still going to happen. You still quoted these jobs that they didn't sign off on yet, but now they signed off.
Yeah.
It's still going to happen, and it's going to take time to get out of it. It's not just because in your mind you're trying to get out of it that everything's going to start falling in place.
No, it's never easy unless the government gives you $500,000 or I got another place got 3.2 million. They weren't in the death spiral, but
Yeah.
so anyway, yeah, that something like that could happen, but that's an accident, and it's hard to thrive by accident.
Yeah.
So it's these four areas, and you need to start today. I mean, in the misbidding, speaking about a blog, I was reading them the other day. I've got a series called Intentional Bidding on my website under resources articles. I don't know, they're maybe a year old, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4. And
we'll link to all those in the show notes.
Okay. Yeah. We'll link to Intentional Bidding part 1, 2, 3, 4. And I tell you, it's work to understand. I reread them. I love that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm rereading them. I go, man, if I'm not sitting there talking to somebody about it, they may not like it. And it's work to understand, but it is the only way. You or somebody in your organization needs to understand and do it. Otherwise, you're just dreaming. And this came up last week. Guy came in bidding a new type of project. He's a guy I work with. I'm real familiar with this type of project. I used to bid them myself 20 years ago. So I'm looking at it, and he goes, I figure $1,200 per unit. I go, where the hell did you get that? Well, it's about $600 per unit. I go, well, what's your cost? What's your material cost? What's your labor cost? What's your equipment rental cost? Well, I don't know. I said, well, don't ask me. $1,200 per unit might be a really good price. Might be $2,400 underwater. I don't know. I don't know. And he actually did that job, and I found out he doesn't know it, but he's probably going to get it. I know it because the people wanted to bid called me and asked about it. I hope it's good. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and this is a growing company. It's in the millions and doing well. And I mean, apparently doing well.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Man,
I don't know.
so crazy.
So that's not good enough. So read those articles or call Khalil or me.
Yep.
You can schedule 20-minute free time. We'll talk about it. If you need somebody to help you out of it and grow a pair.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Today. Just say no to the next demand.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
well, I hope you guys enjoyed the death spiral.
Or the discussion of it.
The discussion of it.
You will not enjoy the death spiral.
If you know someone that needs to hear this, send it to them. If you ever want to chat about these kinds of things, Martin and I are always available, and would love to chat with you guys as a part of our audience. We thank you for listening. Share this out on social media, Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever you're active on social media, and let us know how we're doing. Send us an email if you like this content. But yeah, thanks for another short episode, Martin, and we'll hope that you
How
guys.
short was it?
It wasn't too short, was it? Anyways, we hope
Medium
that you guys
is.
have less stress, more time, and more money in your business. Thanks. Hey, cash flow contractors. Thanks for listening to that episode on the Contractor Death Spiral. We hope you enjoyed it, and want to ask if there's any of you that are familiar with the Contractor Death Spiral, if you're in it right now or you know somebody that needs to get out of it, you can reach out to us. We have some links down in the show notes to schedule a 20-minute meeting with either myself or with Martin on just getting some advice and telling us a little bit about your situation and maybe giving you some clarity on what you might be able to do. Would love to hear from you. If you like this episode, please go and share it with anybody that you know. And then also inside of Spotify, if you're listening on there, or on Apple, go and leave us a 5-star review if you enjoy this podcast. Give us feedback anytime. You can send us an email through the show notes as well. We'd love to hear from you. And as always, thank you for listening to the Cash Flow Contractor. We hope that you're finding less stress, more time, and more money.